Okay, while we wait for the presentation to fire up, I'll start by saying that we live in truly amazing times. Everything in the world is now flat, so the whole world has gone global. People are traveling a lot more than they ever did before, but it seems like people travel more and are here in Concord less. The pace of life seems to move faster and faster and faster. And amidst all this, we all have technology, and we spend more and more of our time immersed in technology. I think if you look at the percentage of time that we spend with our technology, texting, playing, on social networks, in virtual worlds, it may well be taking time away from our physical communities. And so, for me, it really provokes an important question. The question is this: are traditional communities still relevant in today's world? And when I say traditional communities, what I mean is groups of people with common interests who get together in physical places to do things together. Now, my answer is a resounding yes. And for the next 10 minutes, we're going to go decidedly local, and we're going to talk about a community that's taken flight in West Concord over the last 2 years. Now, the story begins in 2010, when my wife and I bought the Bradford Mill. This was a complex of buildings in West Concord that were built in 1906, originally housing the Allen Chair Company. Well, unfortunately, over the last 50 years, these buildings were the unfortunate victims of benign neglect. Not a single dollar was put into them, and they've deteriorated. The entire complex was heated by a 1939 boiler, which had two settings, on or off. And the way the heat was regulated was very simple. Open your window. And when those windows broke, well, as you can see, they boarded them up. It was a low-budget approach to property management. The connector that connects two of the buildings became the home to a large flock of pigeons, and over time attracted the affectionate moniker, the Bridge of Death. And finally, the entryways. Let's talk about the entryways. They were not exactly accessible. And these buildings did not exactly scream out safety or security. Can you imagine what it felt like to go to work here? I mean, can you imagine what it would be like to invite a customer or a client to come visit you here? Now, for us, this was a big problem because the buildings were about 60% vacant when we took over. And we had to find a way to fill that vacant space if we were going to make a go of the project. So we quickly realized that we would never be able to say that our buildings were better or even comparable to any other building in the area. So we decided we had to settle on something different. We had to build on something different. And in the first weeks after we took over in early 2010, we met a bunch of the people who were working in the property. And it turned out that there were about 40 really good people who were working there. And guess what? They didn't care about the condition of the buildings. They were creative. They were very focused in their work. And there was actually a shared sense of camaraderie amongst them, that they were the last holdouts in this derelict pile. And it sparked an idea. We began to wonder, what if we could find other people like that? Other people who could look beyond the ugly exterior and actually see the value in being part of a community. And it sounds a little funny, but it's true. We decided that rather than promoting the buildings, we would promote the community. We also realized that 40 people was not enough to make these buildings go. And we would have to go outside. So we did some research. And we talked to a lot of people. And as we listened to these people, we began hearing a number of common themes. People who were working from home were lonely. We literally had people coming in and say, I'm lonely. Every day I leave my house at noon, I go down, I get a cup of coffee at Starbucks, and then I spend an hour walking around hoping I run into someone I know. People were distracted at home. They kept using the word community over and over and over again. And so the first decision we made was that if we were going to build a dynamic community at the Bradford Mill, we would have to be able to attract good people. Now, the second and somewhat unfortunate reality was that there was no way for us to move forward without actually improving the buildings because they were a fire trap. They were just not going to work long term. So we had to provide functional workspace if we're going to attract these creative people. So we embarked on an ambitious renovation program. And starting in late 2010, we began this project. We replaced all the siding in the buildings. We removed those horrible entryways. We installed modern insulation and HVAC, and we improved all of the life safety systems. When we got to the building where you saw that first entry, we actually replaced all those broken windows and every other window in the complex. I think we replaced something in the order of 280 windows over the last year and a half. We decided, too, we had to pay some attention to the interior, so we actually completely transformed the interior of the buildings. And we built a place called the Wheelhouse to provide community for those people who were isolated and working at home. We created a cafe for those people where they could come together and actually get to know each other, talk about what they're doing, maybe talk about something other than their work sometimes, maybe bounce ideas off someone who didn't know their space quite as well, because that's the kind of environment in which creativity thrives. We also created something that we're very proud of called the Artscape. This provides studios for local artists. And we made a really interesting discovery. The artists and the business people really enjoyed meeting each other. It turns out that artists and business people actually don't fraternize that much. And so we provided that opportunity, and people really loved it. The artists brought this creative energy that was tangible. And their work, which is displayed throughout the property, brings a kind of a new level to the atmosphere. It's just really nice to have this great original art created by the artists that we have living in residence with us. And so we began to make serious steps toward having a functional workspace. And as we did this, the results were almost immediate. Within the first 60 days of opening the Wheelhouse, we had 30 members sign up. That nearly doubled the number of people who were affiliated with the property. And we also found that as we began to share our vision for a community of creative people, we began getting phone calls from companies who kind of liked the idea of relocating to the Bradford Mill, despite the fact that if you go on Google Maps even today, it looks like it looked in 1986. Now, we were basically investing kind of on good faith that this was all going to come through, and we realized, too, that there was one more piece that we had to add to the puzzle, and that was that we had to make it easy for these people to get to know each other. I don't know how many folks here would say that it's easy to meet new people as an adult. Jillian might. But the truth is that once you get out of elementary school and out of college, it becomes pretty hard to get to know people. So we wanted to facilitate those opportunities. And so what we do now is a number of different things that fall under the umbrella of programming to make it possible for people to meet each other. Every 4 to 6 weeks, we have something called the free lunch. Now what we do is we invite everyone in the mill community to come together and have a free lunch. We're trying to debunk the idea that there is actually no such thing as a free lunch. We schedule coffee hours. So a couple times a week, we'll just send out an email to everybody that says, hey, come over this afternoon for a coffee hour. It's a chance for people to get together in a very casual, unstructured way and get to know each other. The third thing we do is we organize brown bag lunches. And a brown bag lunch is hosted by a Wheelhouse member who comes and talks about something they're incredibly passionate about. And that generally leads to a really interesting discussion. The first one we had was put on by a member named Matthew O'Connell, who talked about the connections between Concord transcendentalism and modern architecture. No kidding. There's a direct lineage between the two. The most recent one was put on by a local doctor in town, Dr. Henry Valiant, and he talked about the demography of the U.S. presidential election. So they're interesting conversations, and it doesn't have to do anything with work in most cases. It's mostly about getting people together and giving them the chance to connect with each other. Now, what this led to was the discovery of this very simple formula. And the ironic thing here is that what started as a real estate development project actually evolved into a community building exercise. We didn't start with this grand strategy. We didn't know where we were headed. It was totally organic and totally serendipitous. But the need, the hunger that people had for community literally just seeped out. It was palpable as we looked around at the community. And this is what we found has been really working. Now, when I say it's been working, just to give you a few numbers, we've been incredibly successful with filling up the space. We are now fully occupied. We have 23 businesses working in the mill. We've got 18 artists, and we've got over 75 Wheelhouse members. So in total, our community has grown to over 200 people. And it's really thriving. It's really great, and it's really fun to see. Now, you might wonder, if you're not already at the Wheelhouse or in the mill, why is this relevant to you? I guess I'd ask you to reflect for a moment on the communities in which you're involved. All of us belong to multiple communities. And when I say community here, again, I'm focused on the physical, okay, the traditional communities. All of us belong to multiple communities. For me, I tend to look at community through the lens of a parent, because I've got 4 young school-age children, and so I tend to, my communities tend to revolve around them. So the first one that comes to mind for me is the school community. School communities are full of good people who are coming together to teach, to learn, to challenge, to compete, to do all kinds of good things together in a physical building. And there's all sorts of great programming that goes on. And that's why schools are such great communities. And if you look around Concord, you'll see all kinds of communities. There are communities that are built around churches. There are communities that are built around youth sports. There are communities built around the arts. I mean, look at this place right here. This is a place that's a community of people who love the arts. And they come together for an event like this, which, note, it's not a virtual event. It's a physical event. We're here together, and they enjoy that time together. And what it comes down to is that community is a basic, essential human need. And I believe it's incumbent upon all of us to help nurture community. And so if I come back to the original question that I asked at the beginning of the talk, the question was, are traditional communities still relevant in today's world? The answer is still yes. And if I could make one wish, it's that all of us could slow down, log off, not all the time, but put those smartphones away once in a while, and come together to make this community just a little bit better than it already is. Thank you very much.